Hello, everyone, and welcome to the WebEx on transitioning your course from on-campus to online. My name is Lula March, and I'm a member of the McGraw-Hill team, and we're very happy to have you joining us this afternoon. We recognize that this is an extraordinary time in higher education, and we are here to help you as you work to transition your course from on-campus to online. Today, joining us to help you do that is Heidi Deepen. Heidi is Professor of Accounting at Kwantlen Polytechnic University in BC. While at KPU, Heidi has served as department chair and has sat on multiple committees. Heidi is also a member of the Canadian Academic Association Education Committee and has presented their annual conferences for her work in student engagement through online education and top strategies to reach millennial learners. Heidi has taught for over 15 years, has delivered classes face-to-face and online, and over the last 5 years, Heidi has gone from teaching face-to-face classes to strictly teaching only online. So today she's here with us to discuss some strategies on how you can effectively transition your course online. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to you, Heidi.
To talk to such a large group of faculty across Canada today. I'm excited to be able to share some of the concepts that I've learned over the past 5 years, and also to give you some really good tips on how to be efficient in your online transition and how to have the most impact with your students. So let's get started. We're definitely entering a new world for education. Day by day, things are changing drastically in the world, and I find that the more that we can adapt our courses to meet the students' needs efficiently, the less anxiety our students are going to have. And so my goal today is to share some strategies to navigate and manage this sudden change in course delivery, and also to provide some discussion on alternative assessment options to help us to completely successfully complete the semester in this new online environment. So the first thing I wanted to bring to your attention is the fact that students today are experiencing heightened anxiety. I know instructors as well, the rest of us are also experiencing heightened anxiety based on this new situation that we're coming across. Resources are low, all of our regular routines are changing. Students are afraid to do just day-to-day things like take public transit to get their essentials. They're being asked not to come to work. A lot of them are working in those retail jobs or restaurant jobs that are being closed down for the time being. The world's quieting down unlike anything we've ever experienced before in history of our lifetime. And so we know that because of all of these events, it's causing a lot of stress and anxiety on the students' perspective. And they're also concerned about how will they get through writing the midterms and finals. The current living situation may be not conducive to the online learning that could have been the case previously when there weren't so many individuals that were trying to accomplish similar things. And so we want to make sure that we're really thinking about the students while we're crafting this online expectation, because it definitely changes things. And just be aware that things like this have happened previously in smaller, more regional perspectives. During Hurricane Katrina, several post-secondary institutions were forced to go online, 20 colleges total. Some feedback from them, what they found was that the biggest issues that they faced wasn't instructors adapting the courses. It was just managing these life happens issues with students. Students were forced to relocate, maybe didn't have access to the resources like Wi-Fi and things like that. So just being aware of what the students might be experiencing at home, taking a survey of what are the biggest challenges that they're facing might also be helpful just to get their perspective. Another thing that I want to draw to your attention is that the students that we're dealing with today in our classes have been raised through an entire uncertainty and challenges in their lives. So they are used to uncertainty and outside stresses. They went through the dot-com bubble burst. Many of them were born into that. They had gone through being aware of the terrorist attacks that became kind of important and impactful in 2001. They were also part of the US Great Recession in 2008 and 2009. We had ISIS attacks. So now this is just another element of a very challenging world that they're being raised in. And one thing I wanted to bring to your also attention is the fact that these students, prior to this coronavirus situation, have been surveyed, and more than 50% of them experience depression, and over 80% are already experiencing anxiety prior to the world changes that we've experienced in the past week or so. The other event that I wanted to bring to your attention, or the perspective, is that these students have been raised through a period of technological advancement. They're very familiar with using videos, accessing information efficiently. So they are very adaptable to new technology. That doesn't mean that they don't need a little bit of help here and there when making the adjustment, or that they don't experience any anxiety when we change circumstances, but they are adaptable and they do have built-in ability to be able to adapt to this technology that we're changing. So we wanted to just talk to you about some of these challenges that us as educators are experiencing in this online transition. So I wanted to go through a few of those key challenges just to help you to know what we're going to address today. First of all, setting optimal method to convey key learning concepts. So a lot of us are discussing with our core faculty, what are some ways to best deliver these key concepts to our students in an efficient manner. Determining how to do the assessments is a major ordeal. How are we, some of us have passed our midterms, others have a second set of midterms coming up. And also final exams, group presentations, final projects. How are we going to handle that transition? And many institutions are discussing possibly modifying course grading distribution to adapt to these changes. So we want to make sure that we're aligned with our fellow faculty and we really work together as an institution to develop some standardization in this area. So I just wanted to also talk about some key challenges with adapting online mid-semester. So just be aware of the fact that we are in isolation. And so students especially can, when they have a lack of a clear plan or clear direction, and they could feel like they're adrift. So we don't want them to feel like they're lost on an island. We want them to actually get some clear guidance and direction from us as faculty, and humanizing the discussion and the content that we're giving to them is really important. Also, just, giving them some perspective. I found this is how I find that it's the best way to get groceries, like giving them little day-to-day life tips just here and there helps them to realize that we're also experiencing challenges, and it helps to bring us together as a unit. Okay, so we'll move on to the next slide. The other perspective I wanted to give you is that it is incredibly important for us as faculty and for our students to think positively, to get comfortable in our current situation. It looks like we might end up possibly extending this online learning into the summer semester. And so we want to make sure that we have a good perspective on it. And anytime we're forced to change, we'll come across new ideas, new ways of doing things. We get to innovate. We might find better ways of doing things than we've done in the past, and that might change our approach to teaching for good, so for the better. So that's always important to think about the positives. Now, and our students to consider what you now can accomplish now that you're not traveling to campus and taking courses on campus. We want to think about, maybe just organizing our office, organizing our home. What hobbies can we do from home that we always wanted to and never had time for? Engaging in board games with your, roommates or your family that you're living with. Taking advantage of those outdoor, enjoy nature. All of this will be accomplished. So just really reminding our students that think of what you can do versus everything that you can't do. And there's some links here for some other helpful videos that you can go to. So when you have access to the webinar later, you can click on the link. Also want to think about the benefits of online education. Now we're safe in our home environment without the fear of getting sick. I know many faculty were very concerned over the past couple of weeks, teaching students, running midterms, and having students show up with, coughing, or anytime someone coughs, people would panic, wondering about the cleanliness of the environment they're teaching in. So we don't have to worry about that anymore. We have our own safe home environment. We have a flexible schedule. We can work through course materials during our personal peak hours of productivity. So being aware of that, when do we work the best? That's when we can start compiling our resources, and students can be encouraged to study when they work the best. So we have all this extra time, and students can benefit from accessing these additional materials that we're compiling. So when we're moving to an online forum, maybe we're going to put together more of a detailed, even a Word document that helps direct students to the most important points in the chapter, or possibly give a little bit more information on our PowerPoint slides. Or if we're doing these extra videos, all of those resources can be used in the future when we teach back in the classroom, but also can be accessed multiple times by our students who previously may have missed that portion of the class where we talked about a certain topic. So there's lots of these resources that we're currently able to efficiently build just bit by bit, a bit this semester. And if we're teaching in the summer, we might be able to add and improve a little more. And those resources will become available to students permanently, which is wonderful. When we're transitioning to working at home, there's some things that it's important to think about. It does change things when you're working exclusively from home. So having a really good schedule and commitments that hold you accountable. So encouraging students also to set up a study plan. Us as faculty, setting ourselves deadlines, maybe having conference calls with our peers or with our students, setting up these little deadlines in the day help us to really feel like we're accomplishing things and connect with people. And that's all really important when we're living in an isolated environment. We want to get dressed and be prepared for our day. Studies have shown that workers that work from home, if they get dressed and ready, they're a lot more productive during the day, and they have a much improved mindset when they're accomplishing their work during the day if they get themselves ready. It also makes you available to do little video calls, video chats, which we'll talk about later with our students. It's pretty efficient just to send them a quick little link and hop on a video and screen share. With free resources that are very easy to use that are out there. So if you're all ready to go, then it makes you feel much better about doing that. Keeping our workspace clean is really important and organized at the end of the day, making sure that our desk is prepared to get efficient work done the following day, keeping our homes, tidy. That helps us to be able to really focus on the work that we need to do and not be distracted by everything around us. Also, when we're thinking about germs, it's good to wipe everything down, every day and make sure that it's clean and ready for us. Also, we want to think about maybe adapting our productive hours. So for myself, I have a 10-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son who started homeschooling 2 weeks ago. We jumped into the homeschool option a week early because of what we were concerned about in our environment. And so my husband and I typically wake up at 5 a.m. and we're able to get a good chunk of work done before they wake up. And that helps us to be able to get a jump start on our day. So when they wake up, we can still make breakfast together, have a few moments, put together a lunch option, and then go back to work. And we can all start their homeschool and we can get all of our work done. So having these little adaptations to our productive hours really helps us to be efficient. Also, expecting distractions because we're working from home with children, with maybe parents that live at home, other people. We're also getting updates via text messages and things like that. So we really want to definitely expect these types of distractions and not be frustrated by them. We want to make sure also, just as etiquette, to tell our family or whoever's living in our household when we are on a video call or if we're on a call. That's very important. It's good for everybody to know. And so that'll minimize the distractions and the interruptions. Okay, also, there's a tendency for many individuals to be connected with the news media during this very difficult time. My advice to you is to jump on that news media when you wake up, if you like, a little bit of get some information as to what's happened, maybe at the end of the day, but try as much as you can to disconnect yourselves from that media during the day, because it's just a lot of hype. And it will distract you and make you feel anxious, and it doesn't help you focus on your important tasks of getting your information ready for your students. And there, back on that slide, there's a really excellent ABC video that you can watch that there's a link for. A global talent HR executive that lives in the Bay Area. He's transitioning to work with his kids from home, but he had some really great tips on how you can adapt to your home environment. Some concerns that we want to keep in mind. One thing that I never feel comfortable with is sharing my personal cell phone number with my students. So there are many great options. I've never felt the need to FaceTime a student with the ability to use features like Zoom meeting for free, and it's very effective. So be cautious. I know in this situation, sometimes we put all of our barriers down because we want to really help everybody and we want to be most efficient as possible. But just, I caution you on those types of things. Try to stick with your regular schedule and, not providing those types of information to students unless it's absolutely essential. Also, we want to keep in mind to not overload our students with an onslaught of messaging. So I'll give you an example of the type of message we send out. I send out once a week to give my students kind of a perspective of what these weekly accomplishments are going to be all week long, what they need to do during the week. But really, we don't need to interrupt them continuously with lots of extra little details. So making sure that we're consolidating our message is very helpful. Holding live videos, we want to keep in mind that we're all working from home. I love live videos. I think it's really important to connect in person with students. It helps them, it humanizes this online learning environment. It really is effective with helping them realize that they're part of this big group. And so I do love them. Just be aware that there might be some interruptions. We have that newscaster that we all saw the video of several years ago that children were walking in on the broadcast. So we want to be aware that might happen, and we need to be okay with that now and then. Okay, a lot of us are perfectionists, so we're expecting things to go perfectly. They will not go perfectly. Just handle these interruptions as well as we can. We might also need to, again, adjust the time slot of our classes accordingly. So it might be good to contact our students and find out maybe a survey, what works the best for them or for you yourself in order to get the information out to them if we're going to do some live interactions. Also, just realize that not everyone has access to all technology. So when we're putting things together, keep it simple. All students have data plans with their cell phones that are usually fairly affordable now. Most of these students have TikTok accounts, and you can put together a pretty efficient video effectively in TikTok. If you want to use that, you can use YouTube. Short videos are best. The longer the video, especially if we're looking at more than 10 minutes long, students, we're going to lose their attention. We're going to lose their interest. So the most efficient way of getting the attention and engagement of these current generation of students is really to be efficient in our messaging. If we're going to do a video, maybe do it on a specific one concept at a time or two concepts, but just be walking through a more detailed, comprehensive question is really helpful, but not necessarily covering the entire PowerPoint presentation in a video. That would be very daunting for our students. Okay, so we also want to think about what skills we need now that we're halfway through the semester and we have just the rest of the semester left. Take yourself aback and think, what are the most important skills that we really need to develop right now through this next month before exams? Is it communication skills? If that's the case, we have these message boards, live video meetings options, possible other written communications that we can have them do. Are they critical thinking skills? We might have them evaluate in writing different options, provide a written report, do a video based on what they're putting together. We can have them reflect on their learning. Also, students love researching. They're the Google generation. They love looking things up. We want to make sure that they understand, obviously, the quality of information and where it's coming from and reliability of that information. And so if we have, for example, in my auditing class, I would have students look at what happened during the tech bubble burst with Enron and WorldCom, and I would just let them go and do some exploring and come back and report what some of the major concerns to us should be as auditors based on what happened in that situation. So it's good to get them to just take a look at certain things, some directed, with some direction, have them do a little exploring and some research is very valuable. Also, is it basic knowledge acquisition that we're just really concerned about? We need to get through the content of these specific chapters. Well, maybe we can look at doing just short little videos to help them. Oftentimes, many of these videos are out there and have been created, and we can work together with our key faculty in our department to identify specific great videos that are short and sweet and helpful to communicate those concepts. Oftentimes, many of them have been produced out of the US, and some as well in Canada. So take advantage of instructor resources based on videos that have been released by our publishers, but also other sources can be very helpful. We do not want to reinvent the wheel. And so many of us have been already using a learning management system for many years now. And I used Moodle. I find that Moodle is very effective in communicating information to our students, weekly information, posting files, posting images, linking to websites. It integrates well with Connect and other publisher sites. So just taking advantage of that, making sure that we don't reinvent the wheel, we keep that structure, keep that going, and modify just here and there, tweaking, providing extra information to help our students. And collaborating, I mean, I can't emphasize that enough. The more we can help each other, let's bring ourselves together, help each other, make our education experience for our students the best it can be by sharing resources in this time. This is one of the most effective tools that I found from teaching online that I had learned many years ago. I had gone through a PD session at the CAAA conference on online learning, and putting together a weekly roadmap for students is core, it's essential. Just a very organized message email that you can put together. I would also copy the content into my Moodle website for that specific week, providing the information of what specifically students need to walk through in that current week to accomplish. And with today's students, it's very effective to set multiple deadlines throughout the week to help them to digest the material over time, rather than set a large assignment due once a week. Students, especially in the current conditions, can feel overwhelmed and procrastinate. And then before you know it, they've lost several weeks of the semester. So putting together a really organized plan. First thing, read chapter 9, these pages. Tuesday, I'd set a deadline to complete 30 minutes of SmartBook adaptive learning. And SmartBook is so helpful for students because it adapts to their own understanding. If they miss a concept from chapter 2 and they're in chapter 6, it will bring them back to that concept and help them to understand what they're missing. Way more effective than I as an educator can do in a class environment. So helpful, very helpful. And if you haven't been using it yet in the semester, it's not too late. You can definitely start using it, and it's very valuable for students to absorb that information initially and get it into their long-term memories. Then I would set up a Zoom meeting. So I'll give you more information again. Meet live with my students for half an hour, and I would give them an opportunity. I'd walk them through a concept. I always had a plan for that. So students really found it effective if I talked about the most challenging area of the chapter and ways like walking through a specific couple of questions, or just talking about real life experiences in the audit world when I was teaching the audit class. Helping students with that really is effective in an online live format. It helps them to see you as a person and to see each other, and it really humanizes it and helps everyone to be motivated and engaged in the course. And then I would set another deadline for the Connect comprehensive assignment that I would have due. You could set it for Friday, or you could set it for Sunday, whatever you decided. Also, during this time, we want to be as flexible as we can here and there for students experiencing challenges in accomplishing these deadlines. So we want to be aware of that ability to change the deadlines if we need to. Okay. So being visually present, I can't emphasize that enough. It's so important to show that you care about your students. Don't be afraid how you look, how you're, what's in the back. Be cautious of what's in the background, but just be aware that if students see you and they see your smile, it just really makes them feel happy and relaxed and ready to learn. And as long as we're efficient with their time and we really think carefully about how we're going to spend that half hour, not just doing a random Q&A with students, but showing them something really valuable. We can screen share. The first semester that I used Zoom meeting, I learned about it. When I implemented it in my online class, I just practiced it by downloading the software. I called my mom. I had her download it, and I sent her the link, and we were within minutes chatting to each other on the Zoom meeting app. And then I could invite other family members. They can join in. And so we find you can practice with your family in your own house. You can all be on different devices before you go live with your students, but it's very efficient. You can set up recurring weekly meetings. So the same link is usable then for the entire rest of the semester. It's free if you use it for 30 minutes, and they give you an extra 10 minutes of free time. So it goes into a 40-minute option. It shuts off after the 40 minutes though. So I set my meetings up for 30 minutes, so that if students have questions, it kind of goes into the 40, but I do let them know that we get cut off at 40 minutes. That is a free account with a Zoom meeting. Everybody can access it. If you want to have more time, which I don't know if you do need more time, a larger time window, you can pay, it's around $12 a month or something to get access to their more professional version. And it gives you a little bit more time. But I think those half-hour windows are very helpful. You could consider doing it a couple of times a week for half an hour to do these meetings with your classes, just to keep them engaged, and maybe a kickoff, weekly kickoff after you send out the roadmap. Just give them a heads up about what's expected, what are the challenges, things to be aware of that week, and then a wrap up towards the end when they've actually had time to absorb the material. Also, any videos that we can do, I know we're time crunched, everyone's just transitioning everything, you've got multiple courses you're changing. Don't feel too much pressure to create your own content, but just keep in mind, just with TikTok, if you have teenagers at home or young, my 10-year-old daughter understands how to use TikTok inside and out. So we have parental controls on it, but we monitor it very carefully. But they're all very good at putting together these videos. So if we can put together something fun and interesting for our students really quickly just by talking to them, and it gets saved for them. Okay, so there's all of these options. I love VoiceThread. Your organization has to support VoiceThread. If you have it, then it's an excellent option, especially if you're going into the summer semester. You can import your PowerPoint slides as JPEG images, and you can post videos yourself on each slide. And so students just walk through one slide, it gives your video pops up and talks to them. You can ask students a question, and then they can also post video responses. So it's incredibly effective for group work, encouraging a collaborative environment in your class. It's great for introductory students. First-year students, it really gets them engaged and involved, and they all find it makes it much more of a human environment than just a typical online, maybe less engaged environment. Very helpful to share if we're going to use live videos, some video etiquette tips with students. Send them out ahead of time, reminders. Muting your mic unless you're speaking is really important. Having your video on, if at all possible. It's really frustrating when you see a lot of students not engaged with their video on. Just tell them it's okay if you don't look perfect. None of us look perfect. Everyone needs a haircut. Everyone, is having these challenges. So just keep your video on. It makes us see that your smiling face, and it helps everybody to maximize the benefit from participating. Also want to dress appropriately. Don't need to be dressed up in business attire, obviously. Just something that, casual appropriate wear is good. Indicating that the instructor will facilitate the conversation, having students type in their comments, or being prepared to wait as they would in the class for the opportunity to speak is really helpful, and making sure that one person's talking at a time. So really some good tips. Many of us are mostly concerned about testing and assessment options in this new environment. Okay, so we're very concerned about how are we going to really make sure our students know the content, what are grades going to look like at the end of the day, how do we adapt? And so if we're looking at doing midterms, or we're right in the middle of midterms during this time period, it is okay to delay that till we feel comfortable that we have a good solution for them. So students don't mind our midterms being postponed by a week or two. So if you feel like you need a bit of time, then that's okay to do that. You don't have to stick with the exact schedule given the circumstances. You also, you might want to consider breaking assessments, including the final exam. So at our institution, we had a 50% final exam, which is incredibly high. You can break it into smaller assessments. And so, if you have multiple choice portion of the exam, do that separately in either your learning management system or with Connect, you have the ability, maybe having a written report done by the student so that you can tell it's their own writing. It's, very helpful to have them just give them a couple of questions that you want them to evaluate and consider. So consider where we can adapting our assessments and not necessarily focusing on that one final exam. If we choose to do a final exam, there are options. McGraw is able to help support that as well with Proctorio. Just to be aware that if we're limiting students by a time slot, it's really important to think about, they may not have a 3-hour undistracted window, especially if they have children or others working in their home environment. And so typically with these online screen capture opportunities to have students do testing at home, most of the time students can control their environment to be completely on their own in an independent situation. That's not necessarily the case given the circumstances. So we want to be aware if we're, to be balanced and reasonable and just understand that students are having these challenges as well. Okay, so setting up algorithmic questions in Connect is really helpful because we know then that they're not sharing information with other students. They're able to get through the questions in comprehensive order. So it depends whether you have, I know there's a lot of faculty on and many people are in humanities and you may not have these more calculation type questions. So having them do more of a descriptive analysis, a report at the end of the day, some sort of an essay is a great way of testing them, and you can test them on that remotely and have them email you in or post on the learning management system their responses to that. Given maybe you want to give them a 12-hour window if you'd previously give them a 3-hour, just to make sure they have enough time, and make it so that they can't copy and paste things off the internet. Okay. Yeah, so they might have those crying children in the background, sibling disputes, barking dogs, all that stuff may end up impacting their learning during that testing phase. So to be aware that if we were previously very stringent on these areas, we want to be aware that we need to be more flexible. Okay, you can also do a video interview with our students. We could set up Zoom meeting, half-hour window, ask students some of the questions that we want to ask them and get them to do a video or a live response, kind of a one-on-one discussion with our students to see what they know at the end of the day. So there's lots of ways we can assess our students, and not necessarily sitting in an exam room, walking through our material in 3 hours is always the most efficient anyways. So as educators, we really want to have a positive mindset and think about how we can help manage the transition, setting really clear goals, clear communication, and learning outcomes in an environment that's incredibly uncertain. This clarity really goes a long way with our students. Really being specific on readings pages we want them to take a look at, specific examples in the chapter that are beneficial, video links, those types of resources are quite helpful. Real world experience, real world news clips, things like that are very helpful for students to understand these concepts and evaluate. Use what's already been used that students have experience with. Try not to modify everything, but try to keep consistency where possible. Embrace their ability to research online. It's a great opportunity to make things real world and have students really get an experience by doing their own research. And be aware that today's students really do prefer real-time and clear communication. So be open to using sources like Zoom meeting, doing these little check-ins with students, or even for our office hours, if you just have that half-hour window where students can access you, or even being willing to do it more frequently if you feel like that's going to be very beneficial to your students. So McGraw-Hill is excited, and they've been working around the clock to help educators across the country, across the world actually. It's important to contact your regional learning solutions consultant to help you start using Connect. If you're not using it yet, you can still use it. They're willing to help you get set up efficiently, share amongst your institution, and also the SmartBook feature, which I was mentioning, is very helpful in students getting that knowledge acquisition. Very effective, very efficient way, maximizing the students' learning and their online assessments. They also have this complimentary access to a basic version of Proctorio that enables lockdown browser for testing. Contact your regional learning solutions consultant and they can help get you set up with an additional feature available of webcam view and webcam recording. So that's an extra option as well. So we'll open it up. What are some of the tools and techniques that you've experienced to be effective in your online transition? If anyone wants to share what they're doing, what their institution's doing, what's been effective, then that would be this is the opportunity to do that now.
So you can either use the chat feature or unmute yourself if you'd like to share.
Okay, we got a comment that Microsoft Team is useful. Another option besides Zoom meeting, yes, my daughter's using Microsoft Team in her class. So is my son. They're meeting with their classes sometimes multiple times a day, and it's quite effective to have that little check-in. It's a great resource as well.
Jima from outside of Thunder Bay. One of the tools, like I have actually online classes, I figured to take this to see if there's any neat ideas. One of the tools I've used since I've instructed is that I break students up so many people actually into little classes, I guess you could say online. That way they can talk to each other. It's fun.
I'm losing the audio. Is that?
I was not able to hear that question either. Can you please repeat it?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. Just turning myself up here, and okay, I'll speak louder. Okay. This is Yujima from just outside of Thunder Bay, Ontario. I instruct online and face-to-face courses. I have some students there that are way up in northwestern Ontario. But what I do online is that I end up breaking the students into little groups, so that way they can talk. Sometimes it's chat online, and it just gives a little bit of a breather, and they're still learning at the same time. And it's like you're saying, like face-to-face type of thing online there, great. But unfortunately, sometimes people don't have on their computers to use, so this gives a little bit of a different chance to do something different.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I know, and student groups can, if you form students into groups, they can also identify resources that they want to use as a group. So Facebook has an opportunity to develop an independent group for students to collaborate. Google, there's lots of options, like you say, for students to do some group work together and collaborate. And anytime you can do that in an online forum, it's wonderful. It's great learning. It helps in this environment where individuals are isolated, especially. It really helps them to connect with their peers, to help each other through the learning, which is that's a really good suggestion.
Heidi, there's a question here from Karine. I teach accounting. How do you avoid doing a 3-hour lecture online, but still teach technical concepts?
The most effective thing, I mean, I found SmartBook is really valuable in helping students to get through the chapter concepts. Also, what I've taught introductory accounting many times online, and I found that doing a little video is helpful. So I use VoiceThread, and I'm able to do little videos for different JPEG images. So I would convert PowerPoint into that. But you can post, I mean, you don't necessarily have to walk students through every single concept. You can take the pressure off yourself and really take a step back from the chapter and think, what are the key really elements of this chapter that I need students to know? And identifying those elements are really important. Maybe, it's depreciation, there's the different methods of depreciation. And so what is the best way to show them that? There are great videos out there already produced that you can use to help students. You can post those videos. Connect is amazing with being able to give algorithmic questions that are more comprehensive for students and then getting them that hands-on learning. There are in-chapter examples that students can walk through. So if you just point them through to, read page 386, walk through the example in the textbook, and then attempt the question at the end of the chapter. Many of the accounting textbooks now have certain questions at the end of the chapter with videos that walk students through some of those key concepts already. So making sure we're aware of that access, talking to the publishers about that. Oftentimes every chapter they've identified the key concepts and there's a video for each of those concepts linked to a specific question, and you can add an extra question for them to then practice it after the fact. So don't feel like you have to be a sage on the stage talking about every single topic in the chapter. Students are great at, if you give them some direction, they're really great at absorbing that detail. And those Zoom meetings are very helpful to just, if you want to set up the week and walk them through those concepts just high level. And then on the second time of the week that you meet towards the end of the week, going through the more comprehensive question with them and screen sharing your screen, walking them through it. That's a really helpful, efficient, easy. Anybody can do it. I wouldn't consider myself to be tech savvy. My 12-year-old son is our tech support. When my husband's not around, he solves all of our problems. I picked that up. Zoom meeting is so easy to use. I mean, I had no issues, and I've used it many semesters with students. So taking advantage of that is really helpful.
Heidi, I've got a question here from Charles with regards to Zoom. His question is, when you use Zoom, must it integrate with Moodle or is it standalone? Also, is Zoom or Skype preferred?
Zoom is standalone. My experience, Zoom, I've never had a technical problem with. Skype, I was using previously. I'd have technical problems frequently. I find my strong recommendation is just from my personal experience. I find Zoom is so easy for us as faculty to use, for students to use. If your connection, they can do it on their phone. There's an app. They can just click on the link that you've sent them an email off their phone, and they can be on their Zoom meeting. Super easy to navigate. Really, it records your video as well. So if you can set it up in a folder that it'll record your entire session, so students can then go back that weren't able to make that time slot and re-watch that or get the audio if they want the audio only of that file. So it saves it in 3 different file formats in a download folder on your computer. And so that is super. I would just post that file then into my Moodle every week. And so students that weren't able, I always have many students that are working. And then on there, that's why they're doing an online course. And so having that ability to go back is really valuable.
Great, thank you, Heidi. I think we're up for time. It is 1:43, so we just went a little bit over. I apologize for that, but I think we've had some great questions and some good discussion here. Heidi, if you want to just advance the slides for a second.
Absolutely.
Perfect. So I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. I think the one takeaway from today, there are a lot of resources available to help you transition your course online and get this done really quickly. At McGraw, we're here to support you. We are offering complimentary access to Connect to instructors and students for the remainder of the winter semester and/or during the summer semester as well. So again, if you would like to take advantage of that, please reach out to your local learning solutions consultant or your digital success consultant, and they can set you up with access. As Heidi mentioned earlier, we also have a partnership with Proctorio. Proctorio is now providing free browser lockdown as well. So that's an option that you can take advantage of. So for further information, please feel free to visit our website. We have a lot of tools and resources there to help support you. I've listed the URL here. And of course, if you'd like to take advantage of our complimentary Connect access, please consult with your learning solutions consultant or your digital success consultant. Thanks, everyone. Have a good afternoon, and we hope you stay safe.